Ladies and gentlemen, I am back and I sincerely apologize for the several week delay. It's actually been our longest period off YouTube since coming back for the comeback in 2025. I have done a lot of traveling. There's a lot of family visits. There's a lot of stuff going on in my life right now. But either way, I'm back. And there's equally a huge amount going on in the markets right now. And I'm very bullish. I'm very excited, and it's very rare for me to be bullish. And I think there is no room for fear in the markets right now. And as a matter of fact, as I said prior to the liquidation event, the best is yet to come. And we are very close to that becoming a reality, in my opinion. Now, since our last video, we have actually come in and taken out the liquidation lows. And I think now that we have seen this, of course, it was always a chance it wouldn't happen. But now that we've seen this and it has happened, and I was not going to be the one to take the chance that it would happen and make sure I got some positions in straight away. And I'm currently balls deep in the market, to say the very least. And whilst we will be covering some of the downside risks in this video, where naturally there are still an incredible amount of downside risk possibilities, I don't think that changes the upside possibilities, which is what I want to apply as the main focus in this video. Now, in these situations, and why I say there's no room for fear, that's because just several weeks ago, every single person was saying that this was going to be the easy road to 250K and we're going to go significantly higher. But what we said was we need a liquidation event or a capitulation event to make people believe we are going into a bear market. We have not just seen those highs taken out to make people believe we're in a bull market, but we have now seen the consequential outcome of people believing we're in a bear market. And I don't think that's the case. And I'm going to break down all of the reasons why I do not think that's the case. And because we premeditated what has happened, I think this is only strengthening what is about to take place. And that is a cycle continuation, a continued alt season, and some very magical things to come through to complete the end of the cycle. The cycle is closer to finishing than it is to starting, but that doesn't mean we're not going to see another major drive to mark the end of the cycle, where we begin to see many altcoins flourish as a result as well. So we're not going to do the whiteboard today, as we want to jump into the chart specifically, but I may give a little whiteboard breakdown in the next video. More importantly, I think you should be excited. And if you have been following along, prepared, and handled this in the correct way, you should not be looking at this with fear, but you should be looking at this with excitement, because there are huge advantages here. You guys know, if you've been following me for several years, I am not bullish until very specific moments in the market. I do not buy until very specific situations, predicaments, and events take place, such as what we've just seen, which are normally the birthing ground of fantastic opportunities. Most people are willing to buy at the highest of prices, but why is no one ever willing to buy when prices are actually cheaper? So whilst there's a lot of talks of bear markets, I disagree. Now, jumping into the charts, which I've been looking forward to doing with you guys. During my absence, as I came back to the office, the color scheme changed to what I'm now using. So I just kept all the levels the same. Nothing's been touched. I've just changed the color of the zones to match the overall theme of the charts. Now, we're going to start off here with the total market cap. We're going to first of all just look at some of the downside risk possibilities, because of course they're not entirely gone, but they're not necessarily anything to worry about. Now, the total market cap for me, as always, is the clearest and cleanest reference point of what we need to use to understand the overall bigger picture. And quickly rewind into what we, of course, have been looking for overall was, of course, that wipe of the high to crash into that kind of 3.35 trillion region. Now, whilst we have taken out this liquidation low, I do not see any change whatsoever. Because what we have done right now is not only flush that liquidation low, which has completely amplified fear, we've swept back up on a weekly time frame. And not only have we closed back above this low, but we have also closed back above at present the non-liquidation event low. Now, what I've been calling with the members is a legitimate candle, because this was always a big chance, and I'm going to break this down further, that it wouldn't get filled. And for me, in these situations when the market makes that initial shockwave movement, there has historically been many times where it doesn't always get completely filled. And I never want to take the risk of sitting duck and waiting for that to get swept. And instead, from a psychological basis right now, I am looking overall for this channel to get fulfilled. I believe we are going to absolutely surge to the upper end of this channel. And I believe we are at a critical point right now where that is going to begin to take place over the coming weeks. And if we do not see a big movement by the end of the month for November, this should begin to take place moving into December onwards, possibly into next year, regardless of where and when or how. I believe we're on the cusp of seeing that now. The most important part about this is, of course, if I am looking for this, then any additional movement and foreplay in this region does not concern me, because most people traditionally will buy all the way up with no concern in the world, because the average person believes that the higher the market goes, the safer it is to buy. Whereas I sit on my hands, take profits along the way higher, and wait for situations like this. Furthermore, in the grand scheme of things, just to break this all down to you step by step, this is really not as bad as it seems. And of course, because we preempted this and expected this, I'm going to continue going in line with expectations. And as we look at the total market cap here, the overall bearish trend has been broken. So the market has done nothing more than come back. Of course, we are not completely in the clear of more trickery, but if we hold this level from here, we can get more wicks quickly spiking down. But generally, if this level maintains, which I think it will, we could be seeing our bottom already printed. The monthly time frame is not only holding that trend line also, but has just taken out that monthly low. My target now becomes the monthly high. And now that we've flushed this low, there is a much higher probability that that monthly high is going to come in next. And if we see a decent reversal from here, the monthly low could already very well be in as we speak. And if this structure maintains, we're going to be back at all-time highs before you know it in a matter of weeks. Now, you must also ask yourself, in the overall bigger picture here, looking at where this has gone, the market was overdue a decent pullback. And we've showed this in previous videos. We do not go up in a straight line. The market will inevitably need a pullback of some sorts. And after an overextended period of upside, all we're seeing is a retracement in an overall very, very bullish trend. And I see no reason why that is going to end right now. As a matter of fact, as we look at even the current weekly candle, we've simply come back in to just reject that trend line as we speak after liquidating the low. Further confirming, we could be at a very crucial region here where the market has temporarily wicked through these levels of support, but has reclaimed on a weekly time frame. And if this weekly reclaims as well, we will very likely begin to see a rapid movement to the upside. As we look over here on the daily time frame as well and understand what the market has just done, the low's been flushed, we've reclaimed these lows, and we've just come back in to reject the key regions of support and that trend line once again as well. And I personally believe even from this week onwards, we could start to get a decent push to the upside coming through. Now, whilst this may bring a bit of trickery overall into the following week with more attempts to the downside, I think the worst of it is done. And at the moment, I do believe the bottom is in. Now, to understand the risk thresholds here, we need to look at, first of all, at how low we can plausibly go, and why I believe that overall, all we're seeing right now is really just the downside leg coming through and the low of the month being printed. And this is what I said in a previous video, and to the members as well, that I just believe we're currently looking for a monthly low. The fact the month has started off with an immediate dump is absolutely perfect in my opinion, because we need to understand the sentiment here. Now, over here, when I was doing the videos and telling you I think we're going to pull back, everyone's calling me deluded, greedy, an idiot, blah, blah, blah. And now that it's happened, everyone is telling me it's going to be much worse, we're in a bear market, etc., etc. And this is exactly what I wanted to see, because it's not a big drop, but due to where we're trading, it's perceived significantly worse than it actually is. When in reality, the market has just floated back down, granted in a very extreme manner due to the liquidation event, back down to a logical level to provide a springboard, in my opinion, back up to the $5 trillion region. And as a matter of fact, this is now going to be extended even higher, because the next real breakout for me is going to be in the $5 trillion region. And I'm going to show you exactly why this is very likely in a moment as well, once we've got through all of this. Now, to understand the downside risks, of course, the more wicks we have as a general rule of thumb, the more susceptible the market can become to fill in these wicks time and time again. I do not see this as any concern whatsoever, because what we are situated in right now is something we haven't seen in a while, and that is extreme fear on the fear and greed index. Now, this is one of the lowest readings we have seen if we go to the all-time measurement, which I think is a very clear illustration of exactly what the market sentiment is right now. You also need to consider that if we go back to this particular point in time on BTC, first and foremost, and we go and look at what happened and took place in 2021. Now, in 2021, there was a very different mentality to where we are now. And as a matter of fact, when we topped in 2021, nobody believed it was a bear market here, or even here until we started getting into these prices. Yet in 2025, going from 125K to 100K has made everyone suddenly believe we're in a bear market. And it was due to that fact in 2021 why I was very adamant we would break down into the $20,000 region. More importantly, human psychology, a classic textbook trait in cryptocurrencies, which would surprise you that a lot of people do not necessarily use charts. As a matter of fact, a lot of people actually view the market based on the prices. They are psychologically herded towards round numbers. And at this point in time, everyone's talking about 130, 140, 150 because we're at 125. But now we've come into this very delicate psychological level. Of course, anyone that wasn't expecting this, chasing the herd, is now looking at 90, 80, 70, etc. The same levels I threw out around this sort of region that was a possibility, but now I don't really believe it's as much of a strong case. I believe 90K is very possible, but at this point in time, people are now so scared that they are becoming the greedy ones. The same people that called me greedy up here are now being greedy themselves and waiting for significantly lower. And I think the fear and greed index is a very good illustration of this, because if we go down to history, historically, whenever the market enters extreme fearful territory like this, irrespective of where it is, it's traditionally the best time to take that risk in the market. Yet people are willing to go all in here, but are scared to take a risk here in case we go lower. I think the psychology of that is just classic human textbook traits. And instead, how I'm viewing this is, instead of taking the risk here that we are going to go significantly lower, which we can, I'm going to start building my positions from here and the equivalent of where total is. Because anything lower at this point is a bonus. And we now need to look at where we could realistically go lower at this point in time. Now, of course, our first level has perfectly held up here, so I'm not necessarily seeing any change because I view the market on a weekly and monthly time frame. And we can see we're overall holding up. And even on a monthly time frame, the monthly structure right now is completely intact. It really looks absolutely no different to what we saw here. And that little drop is nothing to fear whatsoever, because if we start to hold these levels, as people begin to wait for lower, before you know it, that monthly can change. And I also wouldn't be surprised if this monthly either closes as a doji or even possibly closes bullish. And from the following months, we start to absolutely blow to the upside straight into this region. So of course, there is an equally greater risk at this point in time, in my opinion, of not being involved in the market, considering that we logically have a lot higher to go, specifically for altcoins. I'm not going to be buying Bitcoin here, as you know, because the risk to reward is just not favorable, and there's only so much percentage return you can get out of it. But when I show you what I'm going to show you in a minute, it should hopefully open your eyes to what is very, very possible. Now, in terms of downside, the first key level to the downside for me is what I highlighted over here at the all-time high, and that was a $3 trillion region. But realistically, removing this level even and understanding where any manipulation can go, plausibly, this trend line is the biggest area of focus if we can see a major sweep to the downside, because of course this will just complete an overall larger channel that can bolster us higher from there. So this is definitely possible, but I myself am not going to take the risk that that is going to come through at this point. More so because it will just provide a greater opportunity to strengthen the position, which is a key word for me. Strengthening your position here. Do not be afraid to buy at highs and afraid to buy here, when anything lower at this point should be considered a remarkable bonus if you can get it. The problem is everyone's expecting that. This is also conveniently all taking place, may I add, at a point in time where the government has been shut down, reinforcing those fearful narratives. But conveniently, we're probably going to be on the cusp very soon of the government reopening and things changing very, very quickly. And I think from a psychological basis here, this total market cap is nowhere near complete. As we know, we are targeting this overall channel high over here. And all we're seeing right now is a pullback for the final leg of the bull market to continue, which will probably be a predominant factor, as I've been saying. This overall rally here will likely be Ethereum, and all of the altcoins that are yet to make major movements. We've also seen the likes of Zcash. You would have noted I've said many times in previous videos that Dino coins will likely make a return. And Zcash pumping the way it has is clear proof that all of this nonsense about ETFs changing things and saturating the market is complete nonsense, because there's more than enough money circulating within the cryptocurrency ecosystem. And I think we have a great shot of creating a low and this actually being the potential bottom. If we get that sweep, I would say do not be scared whatsoever, but you don't really want to be sitting on your hands waiting for it. Now, to continue on the psychological basis, obviously following the liquidation event, now that we've got this move, for me, there's always a situation and a choice to face. If we see this low printed, and because this hit straight into our target and whip back up, I bought here. So I don't want to take that chance. So obviously it can look bad if you've bought there and it drops down, but I bought here, essentially exactly in this region as the zone was met. So once this pulls up, you have a choice to face where do you want to take that risk? And this is what I keep telling everyone right now. Do you want to take the risk at this point of not being involved and buying those favorable prices? The same prices that people kick themselves for not buying when the market is up there. So of course, now that we've got this is only a stronger sign, because everyone has been absolutely terrified from this drop. We had a bit of a recovery. And of course, now that we've hit this level, everyone's looking for lower anyway. So now that the market's flushed this low and recovered, and we've rejected this floor, we could very well be on the up and coming very soon. And I think BTC is a perfect indication of this as well. Now, BTC is also still holding our overall zone absolutely perfectly right now. Absolutely perfectly. And if we go to a monthly time frame, we have seen a very strong rejection of a very similar level. And you could not confidently look at this and say this is a bear market when everyone was saying this was a bull market up here. Okay, we said this anyway. Take out the highs, take out the lows, and continue the trend. Now, I'm going to be honest, BTC is an interesting one for me. And the reason why is because the BTC dominance, I believe, is on the cusp of absolutely dumping. Absolutely dumping. Now, what we have just seen on the BTC dominance is really what I wanted to see overall. It's not absolutely perfect due to that liquidation event, and the trend line really is applicable in many ways. But the fact of the matter is we have broken a very significant bullish trend that has really been present on this BTC dominance since around 2022. So drawing this from where it's the most plausible area to draw this, we can see something that could be a massive telltale sign right now. The overall trend has broken. We've broken through the trend line. The liquidation event brought us back up to reject this level. The following month has now come up to reject this trend line. We have come back below a very important threshold here. And I believe in the coming weeks and months, this dominance is going to absolutely start nuking to the 55 to 50% region and lower. Now, the reason this creates a little bit of a complexity with Bitcoin is because, of course, whilst I believe Bitcoin can still easily go up into this region, I believe this is, of course, the overall top of the market and finale of the market coming in. I just believe there's going to be an alt season to finish things off. Now, BTC in these situations, especially if the dominance does drop, is definitely more plausible to another possibility. At the moment, I believe it's possible, and I'm going to show you why, but I don't necessarily believe it's going to happen just yet. But what I'm basically getting to here is even if BTC has topped, as we've seen in previous cycles, there is no reason why, at the very least, it won't come back to its all-time highs. And there are several possibilities here, which I think do not impact what I'm looking for overall. And that is BTC remains in this range, bounces up and down. And in this movement higher, it drops back, completely confirms a top. And in that period of time in this range, altcoins make the final leg higher. That would be the total market cap, Ethereum, etc., bolstering into that 5 trillion region. That is definitely one possibility if the dominance begins to aggressively drop, which I inevitably think this is the ultimate confirmation. It's on the cusp of absolutely dying. Now, even if that's the case and that doesn't happen, well, let's look at the other possibility. And that is, of course, the major downside risk still present on Bitcoin, which I would say would probably happen next month if so. If we draw these boundaries here, and you look at where we are, well, of course, it's absolutely possible we can get that final sweep into that 90K region like I've covered, because there's a clear trend line here. And this is why I don't think you should be scared, because the market is not even at the cusp yet of coming into still an overall bullish indication. You really should not be fearful in this level, because what can also happen at this point in time is BTC even squeezes that bit lower, but altcoins actually gain strength, especially if that dominance drops with it. And that's why I'm not scared whatsoever. I don't think it's going to happen, but of course I'm very open-minded to the idea we could get one final squeeze down like that as a final flush out. And this is where the psychology comes in play. If you look at this weekly time frame, we are currently holding this particular region as well. We flushed the liquidation low, we've squeezed in and bounced back up and perfectly struck into that 100k region, completely completing our overall target from 125 to 100k. If we can see a weekly closure hold this level, I believe we're going to bolster back to those highs very, very quickly. And what I do believe is going to happen, however, is that Bitcoin is going to flow to 150, 160k. And I'm going to drag this back up now to the 150, 160k region, because I do believe, whilst all of these possibilities are there, BTC rising in this manner could play a contributing role also to the BTC and total market cap, or the total market cap, sorry, elevating into the $5 to $6 trillion region at the very least. And I think this is exactly what's going to happen. Do not be scared here, to be honest with you. Like, there's no reason to be scared. And I'm going to show you a lot more reasons for that after. From a daily time frame basis as well, the market has created an excellent low. Absolutely beautiful low. We can see we're on the cusp of something beautiful here. And I would say once we've broken this trend line, I think what we're going to first of all do is just drive up into this region around the $108,000, $110,000. First of all, we may get another little pullback from here, but I think once this is broken, it's a very easy straight road to those all-time highs. And what I'm hoping for in this situation overall now is, whilst there is a little bit of a downside risk, it's only, again, an opportunity to really strengthen your positions within the market, specifically for altcoins. I do not believe this is over yet. Furthermore, looking at previous characteristics on a monthly time frame, similar to total market cap as well, we have a huge doji. We've taken out this low. Notoriously, these monthly time frames can change very quickly. We've got 17 days left till monthly closure. And in many situations where notorious bottoms are formed, the market looks exactly like it does now. And by the end of the month, it closes bullish, as you can see time and time again. But it's during those moments that people believe it's reinforcing the ideology we're in a bear market. And I completely disagree. Even on a monthly time frame, we're very close to striking this trend line. And even next month could just squeeze down and wick back up straight like that as well. I really don't see any change in the worst case scenario. But often, with something now becoming evident, which wasn't evident to most people before, the movement down has shifted everyone from a completely bullish standpoint to now suddenly looking at the depths of the lows. And for this reason, it may not come through. And I'm not going to sit here and take the risk for that. What I hope for in this situation is, whilst BTC has already done this, we can at least get another shot of popping those highs. And I think the first thing we're going to see when we do hopefully take out that high is a drive somewhere in that $130,000 to $135,000 region. Even that in itself could be where BTC creates another high, possibly tops, drops back down if we don't get the full break. But the fact of the matter is, right now, the biggest focus for all of us is altcoins. Now, going over to XRP and Ethereum. I mean, XRP was a sheer beauty, but let's work on Ethereum first, because this, for me, as I keep saying, is going to be the star of the show. Now, if we quickly change the color of this to illustrate the overall trend, F has been heavily, heavily suppressed this cycle. And if you look at the overall structure from here, this has done exactly what we covered in a previous video. It's come back to an overall trend, very similar to the total market cap breaking this trend line over here. And now that we're getting this rejection, I think very, very soon we're going to absolutely bolster to the upside. And we can now see, when we're looking at what could possibly bring this up to a $5 trillion market cap or so, it's probably going to be Ethereum that plays the major contributing role. And as I've been saying, very likely going to start exceeding into that $10,000 region. I think that's exactly where this is going to go. All we've done on Ethereum right now is broken through this major bearish trend line. Of course, it's tradition for the market to come back and reject. And once again, when you look at Ethereum here and everyone's saying it's a bear market, well, the truth is it's been rising since April 2025 with very little pullback. The market's taken out the high, broken a major trend line, currently coming in to reject and hold this level on a weekly time frame. It's almost pinpoint rejections right now, very similar to the total market cap. And in a very similar manner, Ethereum has flushed the low, reclaimed, and come back to reject to confirm the validity. It's flushed the main low from here as well. So what we now need to consider with Ethereum is it's not only flushed its key range low, but it has not yet taken out that range high. And I believe very soon, if that dominance starts to drop, you're going to see F start bolstering up into the $6,000 region. Historically, these moves always come, and there's something I've continuously said, that alt season will not take place until we get a significant market shakeup and a significant liquidation or capitulation event. Now that we have seen this, the classic textbook signs come through. The main area I'm still concerned about if we do get one more squeeze is around $2,880 to $2,500. The exact same zone I've had on this chart for a very long time up here. We've come into the first level, we've got a little wick through, and in a very similar way, we've taken out that monthly low. We need to flush these highs now. And I think if we see a nice recovery moving into the end of this month, the following month can absolutely start to boom, and the finale of the cycle is going to come through. Now, the main question for me is something I'm still not 100% certain on is XRP. Now, with XRP, we need to be a bit open-minded because it's obviously outperformed quite significantly from a percentage basis, and from its FTX lows, it's done around 1,200%. Now, of course, if we look at the fact that the cycle is providing diminishing returns, BTC along this same window has done around 700. So if we are to achieve 150, 160K, it mirrors what we normally see in most cycles, which is BTC slightly lagging behind altcoin performance. So if we look at XRP from that same perspective, we can understand it's done a rather significant move already this cycle. And if we look at what's happened before, there's two real possibilities for me on XRP. I don't think there's that much upside left. And of course, when you look at where it's trading in respective to the high of its overall trading range from the beginning of time to the overall lows, it's in the upper end spectrum of its range. So of course, buying this for me at these prices is a discount, a nice discount, but it's not plausible because one of two things will happen here, I believe. And this is something we've kind of seen before in previous cycles, notably over here in 2021, where XRP topped, crashed with the market, only came up for a retracement, and alt season took place here for the remainder of the market. But XRP did not go any higher because it had already outperformed. And I think something similar could be coming on the cards here. The first thing I'm looking at is, of course, just coming back to its highs around $3 to $3.6. And if we're lucky enough to get another squeeze, I would just be looking towards $4 at the moment. But it's very possible at this point, XRP could also remain in an overall range. And in this window of creeping back up to the highs, possibly popping through $4, the remainder of the altcoins begin to surge from that point onwards. So you do want to be a bit careful with those that are already significantly higher. But if we compare this, and this is where things are going to start to get very juicy, we know historically and notoriously when that BTC dominance begins to die, Ethereum is normally the one that sends. I've said this many times, but Ethereum has been heavily suppressed this cycle, only achieving around 460%. If we drag this up to the channel, we can suddenly see it becomes a lot more plausible that Ethereum reaches a more correlated equilibrium in terms of percentage gains this cycle, similar to BTC and XRP. Maybe this is even a slight underperformance, but considering this has only done 400%, this easily can do double what it's already achieved. And I think we should logically be looking towards that 900 to 1,000% region on Ethereum as well. And I believe if we're going to hold this level, which I certainly hope we do, you're going to see a very rapid recovery. Now, the next point to make is combining why this plausibly makes sense and why I am very adamant here we're not in a bear market. And that means comparing many things together, something I also showed the members recently as well. Now, the first thing we want to do is look at something like DOT, something which I hold currently. Now, in 2020, when you guys saw me turn that 30K to 600K, that was done entirely with XRP. And that was because XRP, I'm going to get a better chart for this without any mess and nonsense, had a identical similarity to what we are seeing now across various coins. This for me is one of the single-handedly strongest reasons why I believe we are not in a bear market right now. And as a matter of fact, in 2020, it was very different because we were in a bear market. But simultaneously, we're not in a bear market, but these altcoins have been. Now, if you look at BTC here and we take the argument that BTC is in a bear market, well, where would you be looking first of all? If BTC was in a bear market, we would of course be looking overall down towards this region of at least 30k to 20k. That's the overall bear market target. And in worst case scenarios, 10k if things truly implode, which is definitely possible. But let's just say for now, we go into a bear market. Of course, like most other bear markets, we see anywhere from 70 to 90%. The previous bear market was around 78%. So if we were to top from here, which does make sense, if so, 70% is 80% is around the exact same region. That for me is a very clear target. Using those lovely trend lines, as we've done to predict the liquidation event, that would be where BTC goes. Now you need to look at coins like DOT and understand here right now, you have two decisions to make. If this happens, of course, coins and altcoins like DOT go to the equivalent of 0 or negative 100. Do you think that's going to happen? And if you do believe that's the case, well, then we must put our hands up now and admit that the market is over and it's dead and altcoins are going to die forever. That would be the only possible solution. If we do truly collapse to the downside, all of these coins here cease to exist. I don't think that's the case because whilst this has been in a bull market this whole time, these altcoins have only had one cycle and been in a bear market the whole cycle. And this is just one of many coins I hold that look very similar to this. And this for me is how I make a lot of money in crypto cycles. I sit on my hands until coins start to look like this. And the reason why that's the case is because in 2020, XRP looked identical. It was its first real cycle and it absolutely nuked. It slowly bled down, flushed its low, and then at that very moment, it rallied back up. Now, it didn't make new highs, and it's important to be realistic with expectations here. But we must plausibly look at this and go, unless you've accepted that the market is dead, that's likely not the case, not until we get an alt season. Because if BTC is going to fall from here, we plausibly need everything to fall from an equivalent standpoint and level. Now, currently, we can see that XRP could fall from here. Currently, we could see Ethereum could also fall from here. But what we can currently also see is that Ethereum clearly has a significant amount of upside room. And with this bullish retest of this broken bearish trend, this for me is preparing the springboard higher to bring F up to parity, which would also correspond with this empty void we can see here on the total market cap chart, which clearly has not fully fulfilled the upper levels yet, which approximately at the moment is anywhere between an additional 1.5 to $2 trillion added to the total crypto market cap. Now, when you look at this chart here and look at all of these coins collectively, well, XRP's contributed enough. BTC's overall contributed enough. But all of these coins that look like DOT have not contributed anything. And the bulk of this has been BTC. Ethereum has not contributed enough. And you can see that distance that's outstanding for the total market cap to achieve could very easily be explained by what we have been waiting for, the classic finale trait of a market cycle, an alt season and continuation. And I believe for that exact reason, this market is not dead yet. And as a matter of fact, nobody was saying the market was dead until we saw this liquidation event. There was no words or mutter, utter, splutter, whispers of a bear market until we saw a singular drop, which really shows you how fickle humans are, as I always say. Human psychology is herd psychology, it's herd sentiment. People just go with the current flow of the candles. But historically, every major bottom and key opportunity in the market has looked exactly like this before suddenly reversing in the final moments of monthly closure. And at the moment, I believe exactly that is about to happen once again. So of course, if you look at what the real risk is here and now compare this to XRP, take note of this as an example. There has only been one cycle, and all we've done is slowly trickle into a bearish trend, but XRP did exactly the same. What it then did was surge back up to approximately its previous monthly closure, which on DOT as an example, is around a $43 area, something to consider. So the fact that most of these altcoins have also only ever had one cycle tells me this liquidation event that I've been waiting for was a necessity to flush those lows. The fact we've recovered should be telling sign in itself, and we saw the exact same thing with BTC here. So of course, we're not looking for all-time highs here, but what we can most certainly be on the cusp of seeing is a major alt season for all of those sleeping giants to come back and complete the cycle, to mirror exactly what XRP did in 2021. And once we see something of this nature, an Ethereum, DOT, alongside various others that myself and the Innovation Markets members hold and have bought into quite heavily, may I add, across various different coins, you could be seeing similar numbers on these coins and possibly more than what you're expecting across the board on BTC, etc. I really don't think this is the time to be fearful. And historically, there is no better time to take a risk within the market. People are so willing to buy when the market's rising and fail to realize that, of course, the best time to buy is there. It's very easy to look in hindsight if this blows to the upside and go, oh, why didn't I buy there? But that's because people are scared. People chase safety and comfort and they chase green candles. But of course, the best time to buy is when it feels uncomfortable, when it feels wrong. And for me, everything in crypto is a risk. Everything within this market is a complete risk. Therefore, if you're going to take a risk in a incredibly and highly risky market, you're better off taking it from the lowest standpoint possible. So of course, when people are saying we can go lower and you look at something like DOT and we enlarge this chart, well, yes, it can, but how much lower do you bloody want? These would be the same people calling me greedy. You know, it's basically gone to zero. Zero is there. It's flushed the lows. It's recovered. Who the hell bought here? Across the board on all these altcoins to spring them back up to life? That should be a telling sign in itself that the market could very well not be forgiving enough to give that additional entry. And what I believe is very likely on the cusp of happening here is exactly what I've been saying once again. Everyone is now looking for a bear market. And the next rally we see up will be the denial rally. People will not be buying. They'll be saying it's a bull trap. And everyone that's been shaken out of the market across the board on all of these coins and BTC will forcefully re-enter as the market begins to pump aggressively. And notoriously, some of our greatest pumps have come from exactly what we're seeing right now, specifically an alt season using the same theory. So we cannot rule out the fact that we are actually just in the phase of exiting and likely just marked a bottom of the bear market for many of these altcoins that have been bleeding continuously over time. I don't think there could be a better opportunity to buy coins that look like this or have done something similar to this. And you've seen this across many altcoins. So you tell me, do you believe the market's dead? If you do, then that's fine. But I don't believe crypto is dead. But what I do believe is this is going to be arguably one of the last alt seasons, if we do see this, where all of these coins pump and we possibly then go into the worst bear market we've ever seen, which could possibly be several years of bleeding down, dropping all the way down for the total market cap to these levels. You guys should know I'm quite vocal and opinionated on the belief that there will be a great crypto reset to follow, but I do not believe that is now, and I certainly don't believe that is at a time when the whole world is bearish and telling you it's over here at the all-time highs. Never in history has a market top happened when every single person is seemingly now under the assumption it's a market top. It also doesn't have the characteristics of a usual market top that we see, which often pumps up very aggressively and quickly begins to die, just as we've seen in most other cycles. In this particular situation, you suddenly have the whole world telling you we're in a bear market right here. But that's not the case. The bear markets normally happen when a huge euphoric surge comes through. And I'm going to be optimistic. And whilst I'm open-minded on Bitcoin, because obviously at this point, looking at the kind of coins that I hold, I'm looking for maximum returns, because this may be the last time we get this opportunity. Therefore, I'm not going to be a pussy, quite frankly. I'm going to put my money where my mouth was and is, and I'm going to buy, because I think the best is yet to come. Now, the beauty of this as well is this could all happen in the space of several weeks to months, which is often the common characteristic, as we can see, of most bull markets at this point in time. As an example, looking at XRP here during this phase of the rally, Ethereum at this same point in time continued on aggressively to new highs, whereas XRP just topped from there. So if you compare the similarities, there is no reason whatsoever why coins like this cannot pump all the way up. And once that happens and they've retraced, let's say 60 to 80% of their overall high to low move, the market then tops and we see destruction. People will say, do you think these coins can take out all-time highs? Well, maybe they can, but I buy low enough to not have that worry, because by the time they get up to 50% or so of their all-time high, I've already made 1,000%. And I'm looking for that exact same formula here. I am very excited for what I think could be very well on the cusp of happening. Cannot be bearish here when coins are like this. Now, if everything was up here at this point, I would be the first one screaming it's a bear market. But I don't think this market's over. I believe in this market. And why did everyone believe in the market here and no longer believe in it here? You must also remember that 99% of people have no idea what they're doing and they don't make money. They don't have any money because they keep losing it doing stupid things. I think a risk is absolutely plausible to be taken here, and I think there's huge opportunities on the horizon, and this could all change in a month. And the problem is, once it's changed in a month, it's far too late and the market sets off without everyone. I just cannot look at this here and go, oh yeah, it's over. No, if anything, it's actually just beginning before it gets horrendously wrong. But what I will say is, once this happens, I do believe we will go into a rather large bear market that, again, could last several years. And what this would likely result in, and also contribute to my idea, is before it gets worse, we need more retail FOMO. We're not seeing that right now. And that's because of coins like DOT, which everyone bought in 2021. So to truly bring that euphoria back, we need to see those lower caps, mid caps just absolutely send in. This is going to bring everyone back into action. It's going to bring the retail back. It's going to bring your Uber drivers back, telling you to buy this coin and showing you their portfolio of shit coins. That is what we need to see. I think it's going to be one hell of a major liquidity grab, a major exit liquidity grab. It's going to bring a lot of people back in, not to mention the stimmies, the so-called tariff stimmies for anyone that earns less than $100,000 a year. I find that convenient timing, to be honest with you, because this is very similar to what we saw in COVID. And I find it equally as convenient. We flushed the lows on a lot of altcoins. We've had a liquidation event just as this comes into play. So there will equally be a lot of people with some disposable income to join the herd and become exit liquidity. And I believe that will be one of the contributing factors to possibly not just the bear market in crypto, but also a wider market recession. You've got gold at all-time highs, stocks at all-time highs, essentially one final hurrah before the system eventually resets. Now, it doesn't mean crypto is going to be over, but let's be honest, a lot of these altcoins have no real value, no real use case. And my argument always is, if they were that valuable, they wouldn't all drop and pump together in essentially complete sync. There is no individuality really, only in rare brief periods and phases, and they all end up dropping together. As an example, Zcash rocketing right now, but is it going to inevitably go back down to its all-time lows like everything else in a bear market? Of course it will. And I think that's a good sign of what you can expect to come from these. And I, of course, bought Zcash at the very lows for that reason. So it's only a strengthening sign. Now, the last thing I want to mention here as well is, of course, using all of the total market cap charts together just to help you get a better rounded view of what could be going on here. Now, overall, if this is the main target on the total market cap chart, and let's just say we've got from around these levels, approximately 2 trillion to, let's say, 3 trillion or so, to possibly squeeze one more drive upwards. Let's go for the optimistic level first, or the logical level of around 5.5 trillion for around the $2 trillion game on this total market cap. Well, let's go to total 2 and draw all these trend lines first, because we're overall in a massive upwards trend here. Every single chart, every single total market cap chart is still outstanding its major rejection. We'll go over here as well. We've got total market cap, we've got total 2, total 3, and others. Now, others is heavily suppressed and is nowhere near those highs right now. So you also need to look at that and ask yourself, is it truly over from here? And what would the gains be if we were to see incremental increases in the price of these assets? Now, total 2 is predominantly a measurement that is used with Ethereum for me, because it's just excluding BTC. You look at those just higher up, but slightly below in the food chain. And that, of course, is going to be Ethereum, the sleeping giant. So if we were to apply that same concept from here up to there, that is almost an entirety contributing metric to that alone. If we can see this reach $3 trillion, that is Ethereum pump into exactly what I said, driving into that 9 to 10K region very, very easily. And it's exactly correlated on Ethereum's USDT chart and USD chart. Furthermore, what about the remaining coins from Total Free? Well, if we are to see that surge, you're looking at an extra $1 trillion from there. And from the others chart, an extra 700 billion or so, which is very easily explainable with the likes of DOT trading in these regions. You know, collectively, they're not worth much, but if they all start to pump from where they are, that's easily another trillion added overall, if not more, as a matter of fact. This also will very likely play a role with meme coins. I believe Solana on chain will come back with a bang, more so because President Trump himself is purely involved in that market and in that sector. And we've conveniently seen a lot of meme coins bottom at a very convenient time as well. And of course, Trump is in the game of making money, and no doubt Trump and millennia will probably start to absolutely thrive very soon as well. Simultaneously, following just a bit of basic structure here on these total market cap charts, if you go over to Ethereum, or Total 2, sorry, on a weekly time frame, it's really come into a very critical region right now. We've liquidated with the liquidation event, we've pushed through again, and we're just coming in to reject these lows. Prices overall holding a really key level of support, and I believe we're probably in the final phases of getting those rejections in before the market absolutely starts to rip to the upside. The same is applicable here on Total Free as well. We can go over here and draw a key weekly trend line and just understand what's really going on here from the bigger picture. We've squeezed all the way down, rejected, and bounced back up. Go to the weekly time frame and adapt this even further to the current areas we're trading within. The market is in exactly the same regions across the board. It's squeezed through, it's just doing a lot of foreplay and nonsense. You can draw some key zones from here, but overall, I think this is going to absolutely send, and I'm very bullish right now, which is very rare for me, but I think in situations like this, it's absolutely warranted. Others is a bit of a mess, but we can see similarities across the board. There's an overall trend line, liquidation swept the lows, and we've just been seeing a lot of nonsense overall, but I believe this is gearing up for a huge blow through those all-time highs, which would, again, using one simple reference as DOT, a clear illustration that this could very easily begin its journey soon to start ripping up to here, around 600 to $1 trillion in itself. I think this will play a very big contributing role in topping the market. This could easily lead into next year. Again, you don't really need timeframes. It doesn't really matter when and how this happens, but I do believe very soon this would very likely be the case. And I think the total market cap here is the clearest indication of that right now, to be honest with you. You should not be scared of anything lower because, again, how much lower can everything plausibly go? You know, worst case, they would just take out their lows again. But do you want to take that risk of sitting duck and waiting for that particular price point when you should already be positioned regardless? And you shouldn't be suddenly looking for lower now when you were looking for significantly higher there, as an example. I'm not talking to you directly, but simultaneously I am, if you do fall into that metric. Now, something else just to throw out there as well, which could be a key indication for the week, is that the total market cap is also overall holding some additional structure and trend lines from here, which could play a huge role in determining what happens from here. You can see overall adapting to the new trend lines. We've got that rejection. So even with this alone, bearish trend broken, teasing. New bullish trends have emerged. And if we maintain from here, literally in the coming weeks, we'll be back at all-time highs, I think, and moving into next month, probably at the $5 trillion region. So I'm very excited. I really think the best is yet to come. I think there's not much to fear, and anything lower from here, just view it as a bonus. But I really don't see it being as bad as everyone's making it out to be. Our membership prices will be doubling in November. So this is your last chance to get the current rate before prices go up and double.